Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Our guest today is Santiago Martinez. So Santiago, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Dan, it's a pleasure. And my name is Santiago Martinez. I am the co-founder and CEO of Artware. Basically, we want to be the wearable device company. For now, we're developing a solution for essential tremor and Parkinson disease tremor. Think about it like a glove that is able to appease or reduce tremors, essentially.
Awesome. So I'm just curious about your story, right? Because you were talking earlier before the call that you have a co-founder. And so, I'm curious kind of how you guys got together and got the idea for this.
Great. So basically, I studied biomedical engineering. I graduated I don't know what time it is, but I believe I graduated like 1 year, about 1 year ago. So basically I met two of my co-founders, my CTO and my COO. Along the career, this has been basically my best friends for about 4 years now. And in 2022, we were trying to do everything, classwork and stuff like that. And then I was diagnosed with essential tremor. Basically, I got one day to a laboratory, 6 a.m. in the morning. And I tried to do the usual thing, like wake stuff and try to do all the lab work. And I couldn't do it because, I don't know. I had some shaking in my hands and I said okay, I was late. It's cold. I'm nervous, stuff like that. But it stayed. Tremors never stopped. Nowadays have this, some sort of lasting tremor every time I just exist. And, of course, these are just more like an acute disease. So if I'm very nervous, if I'm very stressed, the tremors tend to get worse. So basically I got this disease and I told them my co-founders dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. I wanted to do lab work and stuff like that. They never said man, sucks to be you. Instead of that, they said okay, let's try to do something. We said yeah, that's good. By mere coincidence, it was time to pick a thesis. So basically we do the last year trying to build this weird device that ends up being, this sort of wearable device. And from then onwards, we created a company.
Awesome. So, in terms of building out this device, I'm curious about that as well. Because obviously you're solving your own problem, but what's your background? 'Cause you were saying that your co-founder is more technical, et cetera. So did you guys kind of do this on your own or did you have to bring somebody else in? What was that process of actually building that first prototype and starting this journey?
So first I gotta tell you that we're a fully biomedical engineering team. So we develop things that work, but they are pretty ugly. We're getting better into that side of things. We now have a designer and stuff like that. At the very beginning, we were essentially building something that looked like a bomb on your hand, but it worked. All the core team members, we are technical founders. So at the beginning, we developed some sort of special compressive glove with a company that specialized on this side of things. But we built all the electronics and repurposed the use of this kind of glove. We said the company that developed the previous compressive gloves made it more for burn patients. And we said okay, let's try to repurpose the product you're using and let's use it as a part of ours. Yeah, that's basically why we came up with what today is this sort of tailor-made kind of garment. And the electronics that it's on, it's currently into this some sort of sleeve that you put on. Maybe we'll see if I put it later. But essentially what we're trying to do here, or what we did in the time, was build a hole of wires and weird electronics into what looked like essentially, as I told you, a bomb in my hand. But we have received some help from advisors, so to speak, into how we can get better, but we do all the tech. It's still 100% in our side.
So as of now, right, obviously, you guys started this a couple years ago. In terms of where things are at, are you currently testing it out with hospitals and patients, or is it more a direct to consumer without the hospitals? Where are you guys kind of seeing the market fit for the?
Okay, so we basically finished the prototyping phase. From a technical perspective, we've always wanted to do this. We come from academy and we love doing everything right and trying to have every single quantitative proof, so to speak. So we finished prototyping after a long time, working with 30 amazing patients. Basically, we tell them like, how do you feel? Is this good? Should we try something else? And now what we want to do is to try with patients that have not come with us, like just saying like, okay, you have essential tremor, try this on, tell me how it goes and stuff like that. Regarding where are we on the scale of how a startup should be, we are currently just trying to do the whole bootstrapping stuff. So basically we've been going to accelerators, earning grant money, stuff like that. And that's how we've been working for about a year. And what we're going to do right now is trying to get these sort of usability trials. Basically, we're getting patients from everywhere, of course, preferably at the beginning in LATAM due to just how much it costs to ship. But of course, we're just open to get more patients and getting on board with them, talking more about the project, and then trying to get them a device that they can try. Based on that, of course, we're doing all the rigorous science. We have an amazing team that is in charge of the science, kind of statistics and basically doing a good clinical trial that is, of course, not official, but as scientific as possible. And we're currently on that. We're trying to do this kind of pilot with new patients. Once we have that, we will ask for we'll open our pre-seed round, essentially. I mean, so far we've been getting grant money and so far so good, I guess. We're able to get to our first 100K, but getting into this more of a marketing perspective and all these endeavors will require some more capital, so to speak. And of course, to do a more scalable production. We already have a product that's very scalable, but we need to actually go to a factory and offer some sort of more official proposal, which requires capital. So yeah, definitely it's that. We're currently testing patients. So if you're a patient of essential tremor or Parkinson disease and want to talk with us, you're more than welcome. Dan will extend you the invite. But of course, if you are more interested in the part of, I don't know, medtech and health tech investment, we are opening pre-seed round very soon. I would say Q3, Q4.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of kind of what your goals are, right? Because obviously you're saying you're like in LATAM right now. So is that kind of what you're focused on right now? Or do you like, want to focus like on the US market? Or I guess what is your kind of timeline? Because obviously I'm in the US, so I'm curious about that.
So what we were doing right now, what we have been doing is basically finishing the product in Colombia. And thanks to other opportunities such as accelerators and stuff, we've been very interested in the Switzerland-European Union market and the Chilean market. I was part of Start Fellowship on the batch 4 last year. Which is basically this wonderful accelerator in Switzerland. And I cannot extend it as much as it is. I would say if you're young, below 25, and belong to a college institution, so to speak, you should apply to Start Fellowship. It's amazing. And of course, I'm currently in Startup Chile, which is more like a publicly founded accelerator. But basically what we're trying to do is finishing everything in Colombia and Chile, like trying to do our first sales and stuff like that. But also we've been invited to some events of innovation in the United States. So we're testing still like, okay, LATAM goes first because we were born there. But as for the potential market, we're looking both opportunities in the US and in the EU.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a, very useful product with a lot of opportunities. I guess I'm curious, obviously, that we spoke a little bit before the call in terms of like the functionality. I guess what you can share, obviously, you can't share everything, but you can just kind of just like dive into what you can share in terms of like the functionality and the use case of the product and how it works. I think that you just briefly showed it earlier in the camera. So yeah, you can kind of give like a deeper dive and an explanation here for our audience.
Okay, let's do our best. Herman, if you're watching this, please don't blame me. He's my CTO. And he always tells me like, please do not show the product until we have the patents. The patent is on the way. It's just not so long. Like, we already finished the claims and stuff like that, but we are still, submitting it. Once we have that, we can of course show. And of course, we will tell you the secrets once we can. But essentially, the solution has two parts, an active and a passive component. What I have right now is the passive component. It's basically held on special compressions over certain muscles and tendons. And of course, there comes the electronics, which right now is this sort of sleeve that you put on. So essentially, you have the passive component. The passive component on one side and the electronics on the other. This means they are basically, you don't have to put one to have the other. And since this disease varies a lot within patients, for some people, it works more the electronic part, and for the others, the compressive. In my case, the compressive part is the more useful. as a basic idea, since I do have the tremor in both ends, what we do with the passive component is try to appease the tremors that occur in the fingers. So basically, when I exert some sort of over my globes, my muscles and tendons, sorry, it gets reduced on the fingers. So basically, if I release it, it's back. Then I do some compressions on some muscles, of course, much more than I'm doing right now. But essentially, we're able to reduce the finger tremoring. But now you have another problem. Say you want to use a spoon or reach some sort of glass. If you try to do this movement when you have the disease, it's pretty jerky. And that's the part that these electronical parts are controlling. So basically what I can do with this hand is doing a much more smooth movement. Another good way to see this is with it's called the spiral test. Basically, we ask a patient to draw a spiral. I do think I have one right now here. We haven't tested this. You're actually the first people seeing it right now. We used to use the spiral test. It's the gold standard when you go to a clinician to talk about this. We have developed in our land page right now. This is going to suck a little regarding how it is. But basically, yeah, it's not good. But essentially, you can go to the page of artware.tech. Basically, that's our main page. And you will see there's a free, some sort of test. You can do it virtually, and we can use this to diagnose which kind of tremor you have. We use also that test, and that's the main one we use with patients. And that's a good way to see how is your tremor. Not only like trying to see this kind of movement. Yeah, so that's that. That's how we measured it, and that's how it works. It can look a little better in the future, but trust me, the first one really looked like a bomb, but it was very bulky and heavy. So it's been a long way, but it's great.
No, that's awesome. And then I guess in terms of customers, right? Because obviously you're like a younger person, but do you see the customers more also in the younger demographic, or do you think it's more like senior citizens? Like, what are you kind of seeing based like on the...
Okay, so you can think of essential tremor as like more like an umbrella term. Basically, most of the tremors that are not Parkinson disease are essential tremor. So if you were a surgeon for like a decade and then you have to stop because you have this tremoring. Of course, if you get to the 20s, you get to old age and basically you start to have tremors. Or like in my case, there's a demographic that develops this kind of tremors that although they do not stop you and they come from genetics, they're pretty annoying. And I'm fascinated because every single person that I've seen with the tremoring within my age, within the 20s, they just live with it. And I don't know, since I developed this thing, I told like, it's obnoxious. How do you keep living with the tremors? So yeah, it's basically a target demographic between the 20s. Either you got it sporadic, like it happened out of nowhere or working, or if it is genetic, if you got it out of your 20s, just because.
And I guess like just based on your analysis and research, like how big is this market? Like how many, I mean, obviously there's like 8 billion people in the world, right? So how many people, let's just say what % of people actually have this and could be a customer for you?
5% of the global population have essential tremor or will develop it. And over 60 years old, it's a 20% chance that you have it. It's a 1 in 5. So it's pretty big, to be honest. It's 400 million people worldwide that have or will have this disease. So it is a very big market. Definitely a great opportunity to help these people.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's super fascinating. And yeah, it's interesting, as you said, right? It's not always something that's based on any activity or based on sports. It could be based on genetics, where sort of in your case, where you don't really just, it can just happen. And I guess in terms of the goals, right, for the business, because right now, we're Q2 here of 2025. So what are some of your biggest goals and objectives for the rest of this year?
We've been working like BCBs with Startup Chile and all this stuff, but also within the team, we have said like, okay, this year we need to establish more clearer goals. I've always been the dreamer of the team, that meaning that I propose we can do everything and conquer the world. While my other co-founders have to say like, okay, lower expectations, man. We cannot do everything. So basically, this is the dreams and projections I'm going to tell you right now. They are very conservative, or at least approved by my team. Basically, by the end of, in Q1, we basically finished the developing of the product I have right now. And we did some virtual tests, some sort of digital tools to help quantify the tremors. On Q2, we're focusing more on the product market fit in Colombia and Chile and trying to get some hospitals and other medical associations to work with us, both in testing and both in reaching more wider platforms, so to speak. These kind of talks with for example, insurance companies is something that is within our plans for this year also. So in the future, hopefully, United Healthcare would be able to provide this kind of solutions and stuff like that. But yeah, Q2 is more in the marketing and in the PMF. Q3, thanks to some alliances that we have with some Swiss universities and Colombian universities, we're going to do rigorous medical testing of both patients, but also for the device. So we'll have this more quantitative tests. We are currently developing, once again, digital tools, but we also have these advanced sensors of electromyography, inertial movement, stuff like that to test how the tremor actually behaves. It's something crazy, to be honest. Current diagnosis of these diseases depends solely on the clinician. And I don't know, if the clinician was distracted, tired, or if it's getting a little old, he could give you a wrong diagnosis. Not as a bad intention, but as something that could happen. There's human error in how you're diagnosing this disease. So we're trying to build this. Besides the project, we want to provide an open source diagnosing tool that can help the clinician. So we're working on that as well for Q3. And well, based on that, Q3 and Q4 is just trying to get this pre-seed funding, proving that it works, proving that people want it. We'll be asking for funds to further expand the production line.
Awesome. That's a good goal. And then, if you could go back in time, right? So before you even came up with this idea and started this business, what is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
I would say if I could get back to, that's about 2022, I would say it's worth it. Risk it. You see, most technical founders nowadays come from this idea that academia is the only thing we can do right, and that startup world is something risky at the end of the day. Back in the day, I was thinking either go and do some internship in Chicago or get to do the startup thingy and try to build my own product. I literally had to flip a coin to see if I wanted to do it. And definitely, if I could go back in time, it would be like, you should do it. It's totally worth it. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, definitely that.
That's good advice. Yeah, I think it's like, especially, it's hard, right? It's hard to kind of go against the status quo because there is, to your point, the notion of the security of the corporate world, but it's not always that secure. And it's, if you have the opportunity to build something, especially something super meaningful in what you're doing today, it's definitely good advice. Just go for it, figure it out and go from there. So on that note, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, if somebody wanted to meet with you or learn more about your business, or even wanted to try the product, do you mind sharing your website, social media, I guess, best ways to get in contact?
Definitely. As I told you, the thing that we need right now the most is getting to hear more about patients, and especially if they want to try the device or just want to share the story. So basically, we do have a main page, a land page, so to speak, which is www.artware.tech. I will send it to you later, I suppose. If we have a chat or something, we'll see. Definitely our main source is the land page, but also we have social media. Let me just check the tag. It's just that I do not use social media. This is more of my partner
or even
side.
or even LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, in LinkedIn you can check us as artware.bio is on Instagram. That's the link page. And finally on LinkedIn we appear as Artware. Let me just check real quick. Yep, those are the three ones.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah. And of course, if you want to personally contact me, I believe my information is basically any of the three. But yeah, you can contact to the direct mail, I suppose, as.martinez@uniandes.edu.co.
Perfect. So if somebody's watching this show, tremoring, like any families, friends that have it, that could benefit from this product, Santiago's looking for people to try it out. So reach out to him. And I want to say, Santiago, it was a great conversation. And thanks so much for your time today.